Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good day to you, students. Hope it's well and good with you over there. May Allah the Almighty continue to keep you well and healthy. I observe that many of you do not attend to our lessons. It may be because you are busy with other subjects, or you do not even manage your time very well. Whichever way, don't try to do the right thing, but do the right thing at the right time. I want to add this before we continue our lesson for today. Before the lapse of this particular stay-at-home session, you are encouraged to have memorized Suratul Qiyamah. Make sure that you memorize it and check its translation from any translated Quran. Then do those assignments that are given to you and send them through your familiar medium. May Allah the Almighty make it easy for you. Today we are going to treat another important topic. As you can see it on your screen, it is read, features of the political administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba. Features of the political administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba. This is our topic for today. So the note is given to you on your screen. As I am reading paragraph by paragraph, I will continue to be explaining it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Features of the political administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba. The Prophet's way of administering the Islamic State in Medina was quite unlike the way of the kings and the emperors of the surrounding nations. His qualities of simplicity, humility, justice, fairness, and kindness were reflected in his administration. It was further based on equal treatment for all citizens and strangers, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. So the Prophet ﷺ was trained by Allah the Almighty on the principles of human virtue. He was reported to have even said, Adabani Rabbi fa ahsana ta'dibi. That is, my Lord trained me and made my training excellently well. This is even emphasized by some prominent personalities who are non-Muslims. People like Dr. William Draper has had this to say. He, Muhammad, was the religious head of many empires. He guided the daily life of the 1/3 of the then human race. This is one of the testimony of a non-Muslims. In order to show you that Prophet Muhammad was indeed sent by who? By the Almighty Allah. The next paragraph. The four rightly guided caliph, each of whom was his close companion, had observed from him how an Islamic state should be governed, and each of them shared from him the sense of responsibility that came with high office of Khalif. So meanwhile, none of the Khulafa either solicited or expected to be in that office. The method of choosing was based on an idea of an electoral group of prominent companions who would assess the possible choices and unanimously agreed to recommend one. As pious Muslims, they knew fully well that leadership brought not pleasure, but heavy and accountable responsibilities. The Prophet ﷺ was reported saying, La tas'al anil imara. La tas'al anil imarati. In sa'alta anha wukila ilayka. La tas'al anil imarat. Do not beg for position of authority. In sa'alta anha. For if you ask for it, wukila ilayka, you will be left alone. That is, you will be left to come and be accountable for it on the day of judgment. Allah will not help you on it. So unlike what is happening in our country today, so it is directly the opposite of what is expected of a Muslim to be. So the Prophet said we should not beg for being in the position of authority, except if people wish that we should be there. May God Almighty Allah make it easy for us. So the rightly guided Khalifa are the type of trainees who proved their trainers, that is the Prophet. They proved him right and imbibed the same spirit as that of the Prophet. No wonder that the Prophet said on their behalf, Khairul Qurun Qarni Thumma Alladhina Yalunahum Thumma Alladhina Yalunahum. The Prophet said on their behalf, the best century is my century, and those after them, and those after them. So you can see that the four rightly guided Khalif imbibed the same spirit as that of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now we are going to look at the pattern of administration of the Prophet as well as those before after him, the administration of the four rightly guided Khalifa, so that we will know how the Islamic administration has done kindness to the people who witnessed it, particularly during the time of the Prophet and that of the four rightly guided Khalifa. So I will read on. So, number one feature of the administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba is sovereignty of Allah and the vicegerency of man on earth. Allah created man as his political representative. As the representative, he is not independent of the king, but he is answerable to him for the way he governs the land. This concept is fundamental to Islamic concept of political organization. As we can see it in Quran chapter 2 verse 30, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. So you check Quran chapter 2 verse 30, where Allah said to the angels that he wanted to create some creatures who will be living on the surface of the earth, and they will be his vicegerents. So this ayah is telling us that whatever the position we hold on the surface of this earth, we are holding it and we will be accountable for it. So this is a very big challenge in front of the Prophet and the Sahaba, to make them to be more aware of what they are holding, particularly the office that they are holding, and they did the best they could do to make sure that Allah's pleasure is sought. So the Prophet also said, Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyyatihi. That is, all of you are shepherds. All of you are shepherds, and all of you shall be questioned on his shepherdness. That is, whatever the position you hold, you are there under the supervision of the supreme authority of Allah. Everyone is going to be given his own time to come and be accountable to the position he is holding. So this is a very important lecture, a very important advice for you and I, to know that our living on the surface of the earth is a trust, and whatever the position we hold, we are going to be accountable for it, either as a husband or as a wife or even as children to our parents. We are still in a particular position. There is no way you will not hold a position. talk less of the social status or the position that you are holding in your society. So you must be accountable to yourself before you get to Allah the Almighty, who is the superior, who will bring the superior accountability on us. So this is the first feature of Islamic administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba. So the second feature of the administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba is commanding good deeds and forbidding evil as the moral basis. A head of government is in position to introduce and enforce policies to promote these aims. Citizens are oriented as their duty to obey the constituted leadership in order to achieve social and political unity and cooperation for the common good. And this is the mentality of the Sahabas. This is the mentality of the Sahabas. So they understand this very well. As a subject, they understand their duties towards their leaders. And as leaders, they understand their duties towards their subjects. So, commanding good and forbidding bad is the communal responsibility of everybody that is living in a society. So when it is a duty of a commoner, how can we now say of that of the leader? So a leader must stand up and enforce the good deed, then forbid the evil deed. So he must stand up with a moral basis. So that will start from him, because it is a very important feature in Islamic administration. If a society is corrupt, it is the fault of their leaders. So the leader should firstly lead by example, not by justifying the wrongdoing by hiding under immunity clause. As you can see the situation in Nigeria, the mentality of immunity clause enrich the leaders to behave like rulers and feel on top of the world. They bypass laws and orders and thus give chance to those on civil duties to misuse the position at the detriment of the poor masses. This is because they do not see themselves as agents of moral uprightness. So we must bear it in mind that whatever we do, we are going to be accountable for it. So in an Islamic administration, one of the features of the Muslim administration was that they believe that they are going to be accountable for it. So whatever that is banned on them as rulers, banned on their subjects also. Allah says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whoever does good in atom size, we see it. And whoever does bad in atom size, we also see it. So if you look at the life of one of the Khulafa Rashidin, the personality of Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr said when he was chosen as the first caliph, "O you people, I have been selected as your trustee, although I am not better than any one of you. If I am right, obey me. If I am misguided, set me right." So this is their life. This is their way. This is their mentality. So Muslims are therefore bound to be fully conscious. Muslims are therefore bound to be fully conscious that he is undergoing trial by Allah for his power of choosing between good and evil. He therefore needs less not to be monitored by the powerful and thus make himself an agent of moral imperative of all Islamic administration. That is, as a leader, he must be up and doing to make sure that he enforces the good things and forbid the bad thing for his people in the society where he is the leader. Number three feature is that Sharia is the basic criterion for the concept of good and bad. All lawful and unlawful deed attract reward, and so should be measured by legal description of Sharia, e.g. wajib, mubah, haram, makruh, and so on. Quran and Sunnah are the primary sources of Sharia. Khalifa Umar instructed Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas when he set out to meet the Persian forces. One can win Allah's favor only through decision to his service. Remember that Sunnah is the correct way of doing it. So you read on and on. Okay, Khalif Uthman bin Affan sometimes sent Abu Dhar on exile for troubleshooting his mind, but later called him back when he realized that he was only calling him to order on administrative issue. So this is their own way of doing things. This is their own pattern of administration. So one other feature of their administration is that they follow strictly to the basic criterion of the concept of good and bad by basing it fully on Sharia. That is, Sharia law, which derive its source from the Quran and Sunnah, is another feature of the Prophet and companions' administration. So its description in respect to woman deed are wajib. Wajib means obligatory act. Mubah, allowable act. Haram, prohibited act. Makruh, objectionable act, and so on. And these concepts make the relationship between citizen and the leaders to be more coordinated and peaceful. Unlike the government of the day who justifies and design their way on Western orientation, the opinion of the unknown colonial rulers who took their forefathers captives and enforced their lifestyle on the people. So Sharia in its style rather adapts or modify their lifestyle in such a way that it would be a rewardable act on any individual that adopts it. For example, Western dressing is tailored toward nudity. Their education is tailored toward domination. Even in some welfare activities of every society like Nigeria, you will still need to import crude oil to the Western world before it could be used by you. There are many gadgets like automobile or electronic gadgets that are being assembled or disassembled only by them, and they will not let you know the secret there. So all these are not the feature under Islamic government, under Islamic administration. So one of the features of Islamic administration is that it is based basically on Sharia to dictate the good and bad. It's not by just hiding under the excuse that because you are the leader, so you are free to do whatever you like. So number four feature of Islamic government is the administrative institution established by a predecessor. Continuity in government. So the administrative institution established by a predecessor who ruled in the same spirit of submission to the first principle of sovereignty and vicegerence was maintained. Abu Bakr, for example, fought the Ridda war against the apostate and the deviants who denied zakat. in a bid to keep the Ummah united as it was in the time of the Prophet. So read on about what Abu Bakr said. So this will tell you how committed these people are, how sincere they are in up in giving people of their time the due welfareism. So the companions were the automatic special advisor for their brethren on throne. They saw his success as their own success and his failure as their misfortune also. A good instance is the standardization of the glorious Quran, which is preserved till today. It starts in the time of Abu Bakr, the first Caliph, through the four Khalifa, and it continues to be preserved even up till today. So the spread of Islam extended to Syria in Abu Bakr's time, to Palestine and Egypt and Persia in Umar's time, to Eastern Europe during the Usman times, and it continues like that even up till today. We still see that people continue to do their best in spreading the message of Islam. This is in continuity with what has been laid down by the administration pattern of the Prophet as well as that of the Sahaba. Then the feature number 5, the welfareism of the people, is another feature of the administration of the Sahaba. Freedom of speech, equality before the law, provision of amenities such as schools, medical care, allowances for the needy, and so on. Umar laid a good foundation for the justice in legal system. He personally appeared in court to defend certain accusations levied against him without justifying immunity clause. So during the reign of Umar, the concept of welfare and pension were introduced. Zakat and jizya collected were to provide income for the needy. For example, the poor, the elderly, the orphans, the widow, all were on payroll. And even the physically challenged, they were also on payroll. Whether they can work or not, they put them on payroll who collected salaries in every scheduled time. So according to Imam Ghazali, the renowned Muslim philosopher of the 11th century, he said that the government of the day of the Sahaba used to stockpile food supplies in every region in case a disaster or famine occur. So the caliphate can thus be considered the world's first major welfare administration. So we can see that the life of the Sahaba and the Prophet, they work together in the spirit in such a way that people will enjoy being in this world. So another feature of Islamic political administration of the Prophet and Sahaba is the organization of financial institutions in every province to improve equal distribution of wealth. Baitul Mal, that is public funds, was created for the collection and distribution of wealth. Umar regulated taxes by exempting aged non-Muslims for their inability to work. He also appointed competent people into account session and paid sufficient bursary to students, citizens, to mention a few, from all the welfare activities of the Sahabas. So Umar stressed he did a lot to make sure that people were in good condition. So this is another feature of Islamic administration of the Prophet and the Sahaba. Another feature of the Muslim administration during the time of the Prophet and Sahaba is food security. By paying special attention to agriculture, irrigation system, small dams, and large pools to improve water supply, fully mechanized cultivation of land. Umar himself constructed water channels to improve irrigation system and boost farm produce. He was once reported encouraging his people, "Imalu, fa inna sama ala tumtiru dhahaban wala fidda." Umar says, "Imalu, O you my people, walk, fa inna samaa, for the sky, la tumtiru dhahaban, will neither rain the gold wala fidda, nor the silver." So it means that you have to work for whatever you want to earn. So this was their spirit then. We see that Islamic administration by the Prophet and the Sahaba was more or less but an advantage on humankind. And that was the reason why we see many of the non-Muslims thinkers who went along to prove or to emphasize that the administration of the Prophet and Sahaba were more or less a satisfying one, and it catered for human race when it was on board. So the Umar radiallahu anhu, he always stressed the independence of the judiciary and declared it as a sovereign state organ. He laid down criteria in the selection of judges in every provincial cities. Some of these laid down criteria for selecting a judge is that the judge must be well reputed for his moral modesty and interpersonal relation. Another criteria was that he must be intelligent and sharp in taking judicial decision. Another criteria of selecting a judge is that he must be qualified in fiqh, that is, he must have the understanding of the deen of Islam. Another feature is that he must be socially powerful and influential to be free from pressure of any superior perpetrator. So all these were the way that the administration of the Sahaba and the Prophet was being carried out, so that people, even many communities of the world, were applying for the administration of the Muslims during the time of the Sahaba. As you can see, as we have treated it during the time of the spread of Islam to Egypt, so the Coptic church have already been getting ready for the good administration of the prophets and the Sahaba. So what we have been discussing since is that we are talking about the features of the administration of the prophet and the Sahaba. So, and I've told you that there are the features of the administration of the prophet and Sahaba include, number one, that the sovereignty of Allah and vicegerence of man on earth. So they believe that Allah is the supreme king. He has the sovereignty over all creatures, and that human beings are representative of Allah on earth, who are going to give accountability of whatever they do. So number two feature is that of commanding good deed and forbidding the bad in the society. So they must come up with it as their moral basis. And number three is that the Sharia is the basic criterion for the concept of good and bad. Number four is that there was continuity in governance. And number five is that welfareism of the people is of paramount importance. Number six, organization of financial institutions in every province in order to improve equal distribution of wealth so that the wealth will not be concentrating in the few's hand. Number 6, food security by encouraging irrigation system, cultivation of land, and all this. So, and many more, just to mention few among the features of the Prophet and the Sahaba. So, may Allah make it easy for each and every one of us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello. So, I am going to post your questions on this particular lesson on the platform. So make sure that you read the lesson, you listen to these instructions, and answer the questions through the platform that have been created for you. May Allah continue to be with each and every one of us. Till next time that we meet again, may Allah protect our life, spare our life. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun ala al-mursalin. Alhamdulillah.